Hello and welcome. Welcome. Uh, it is a glorious Saturday morning to run some big boards. I'm going to promise one. I'll see if I can do two, but it might be tough today with some timing. Um, but we are live here waiting for four. If anyone wants to hop in and draft with me, they are more than welcome to. I'm going to begin to feed the ducks, and that should be coming through. And I will tweet out this link and see if anyone wants to. We're live running some big boards. Come hang. Although I know the reach of tweets with links has been nerfed completely. I don't know what else to do. So we'll tweet it out and we are waiting for three and we'll see if we can get anyone to hop in. These definitely feel a little slower than the halcyon days of the playoffs, but I suspect the combine and the start of free agency, which is all coming up, will reinvigorate the speed at which these fill. But considering it is February 15th, there is stone zero news going on and very little happening. That it's pretty impressive these fill at all. And when I say stone zero, actually there has been some. Raheem Mostert will not be returning to the Dolphins, which is not a surprise. He was really phased out towards the end of the year. What that means for Jalen Wright as the main backup to Devon Achane, we will see. I personally have some serious reservations that they trust Wright with that RB2 position. It's tough to know because, again, he was a rookie last year, but it did feel like they were a little reluctant to take off the training wheels. So I am drafting here at the turn. So this is my least favorite spot to draft from, and it's really because I think there's a few tier breaks in my view. There's one after 1-2. I think there's a pretty big drop off between Chase, Barkley, and then the next round of guys. I think Bijan, Jefferson, and Gibbs are their own mini tier. And then I think Puka down to Neighbors is its own tier. But that's only 11. And these tend to go pretty regularly, 1 through 11. The only thing that does happen sometimes is Ashton Jeanty could get pulled up by a slappy into the top 11. That's not super rare, but that's the only way that the turn can get one of these very elite receivers. It's not that you don't still get two very good players at the turn. It's fine, but again, my preference is, if I'm going to be in the back half of the board, to be, pick 9. Even picks 9 through 11 are pretty similar. But pick 12, But we'll see. Occasionally people do weird stuff. You see stuff like Josh Allen get drafted in the first round, which just randomly seems to occur. I don't know if that it will here. Again, we have all red badges, very different from the days leading up to the Super Bowl when there were a lot of new players. We don't need to go over the whole people drafting all Chiefs and Eagles thing that has been discussed ad nauseum. That was really unpleasant, but we will see. We'll see a lot of experienced drafters in this room. No one whose name I recognize offhand, though, so I don't believe this is a true friends and family draft. But if you are out there in these streets, please let me know, because it is more fun, and then I can talk about your team. Saquon, Bijan, Gibbs, Jefferson, Lamb with the first 6 picks. Again, holding my breath, hoping I get one of these guys, but as the board moves and nobody does anything weird, those chances do begin to dwindle. I have uploaded the Davis Maddock rankings. I think he made a few tweaks since I last updated them. But yeah, so if Neighbors goes, I'm a little disappointed, and I have to decide what I want to do. I have been taking more CMC lately, because I realized I had almost 0. And I don't really want to have 0. I really like all of these guys with the exception of A-Chain. I'm not huge on, but I'm going to open with CMC and Drake London. CMC, I'm taking a pretty big risk. I think if we assumed he was healthy for this whole year, he'd be the 101, but he's not. We're getting him, here at the 112. His ADP is, almost 15. This is somewhat of an exposure pick for me. I tend to do the slappy start of Gene T, London, or like Gene T, AJ Brown, which I think is perfectly fine. But I do not want to show up in these playoffs, and if CMC is back, have no CMC. That seems bad. So I may not get to a full standard 8%. I think I'm shooting for somewhere between 4 and 6, probably on the higher side of that, and maybe even up to 8. I don't know if I want to be overweight because I do harbor those concerns about CMC, but yeah, we will see. So GT goes 18, which is pretty late for him. He's a guy that, like I said before, gets pulled into the first round. So a GT Puka start is pretty uncommon. So that's a good start for IU Champ 95. Then we got DJ HA 95. So a lot of 95 people. Clay, welcome. Thanks for coming by and hanging out. Glad to have you in here. Started this draft with CMC and Drake London. I don't know when you hopped in, but I realized I had very little CMC, and I just do not want to show up in the playoffs without any. That seems bad. If he's healthy, he was the 101. So I realize I need to get that exposure up, and I can't take Gene T every time I am at the turn, as fun as that is. Gotta catch up on slows this fine morning. I have been there. I have made a concerted effort to not end up in slow draft hell pre-draft, because I know post-draft I'm going to end up in the puppy 6, desperately trying to max it and have 20 drafts going, and it's going to stink. But I can save that for July. I have so little CMC, just constantly taking AJ Bowers in that 14 to 16, and that's where I found myself. I need to get something like the Draft Caddy or an overlay so that I can see my exposures, because I literally realized I had $3 of Christian McCaffrey, and I've almost done 50 of these big boards, meaning he was only in a little board, and that just doesn't seem good. But yeah, I'm so much more comfortable clicking AJ Brown there, because we all like these later running backs, and there is a lot of risk of CMC. I mean, we could really be taking an injured player, a part-time player, with our first or second pick, and you're just toast if that's how it runs out. But the upside is too great to ignore. So I think I want to get to around 6-ish%. I'll feel fine with that. I don't want to take a big stand either way on that. So nothing too out of the ordinary with any of these picks. In the second round here, off night going Bucky and Breece Hall after opening with Chase Brown. Heavy RBs there. McLaurin at 26 feels so expensive to me. And I took a ton of McLaurin last year, but that is some serious sticker shock. I love Garrett Wilson at 27. I take him there a lot when I'm picking in the first 4 spots in the third round. He was a first round pick last year, and I frankly don't understand why he's fallen to the third. The situation might even be better, and he was fine last year. He had, I think, around 1,100 yards or something. Does not make a ton of sense to me. See a couple of the elite QBs go off the board at 30 and 32. Allen and Lamarco. Sandwiching Trey McBride at 31. So me coming up on the turn. My ranks have Chase Brown, which I don't know if I'm going to follow. I think I'm going to take 2 wide receivers here personally. Did Worthy? Wow, Worthy went at 29, so that's pretty early for Worthy there, but he is gone. Let's see what this guy does. If he's autoing, does he take Chase Brown? Nope, he's not autoing. He takes DJ Moore. I think I'm going to go MHJ and Mike Evans here. I think I'm going to skip Chase Brown. I'm taking enough risk at early running back, and Marvin Harrison, he was a first round pick last year, or the first pick of the second round. He did not have as bad a season as people made it out to be. Going to assume he makes some improvements, so no problem taking Harrison there, and Evans will just get 1,000 yards, and I will feel good about that. So, all right, so not a bad start to this draft. I like where this build is headed, considering we are here on the turn, which again I'm not a huge fan of drafting from, but we will see. All right, I will be right back. Give me 5 seconds here. All right, we are back. Tet McMillan going at 42 is a little early for Tet, but nothing too crazy there. This person clearly is a fan of the rookies with Gene T and McMillan in his first 4 picks. Odunze at 43, my God, I just can't do it. I don't care if Ben Johnson is the greatest offensive mind in the history of offensive minds. I do not understand why we are taking Odunze ahead of literally any of these receivers, Waddle, Metcalf, Adams, let alone Flowers. Does not make sense to me, but that is where he's been going, and that is a stand I am willing to take. If I get beaten by the wide receiver 2 in Chicago, then that's just how it's going down for me this big board season. It's just too much to pay for a guy that just didn't show enough to me last year versus a lot of very proven players, some of whom you're getting at deep discounts. So Joe Burrow goes to the T. Higgins drafter. So he does not get to the Chase drafter. Wonder if the Chase drafter would have taken him or not. Typically you see Burrow paired with Chase, and then if he doesn't go to Chase, he often goes to the Chase Brown guy. I feel like I don't always see the T. Higgins player snipe Burrow, but here we are. The Chase drafter still going heavy running back, even after going Bucky and Breece. Takes a third high-end running back with Ken Walker. The impact on me there is it does thin out the running back core a little bit, which is unfortunate. Because I think I probably would like to add a running back at this point. George Kittle's a guy who, by ranking, he seems to frequently fall. But it is, he does tend to have a little bit more injury risk than we'd like. But he has been an absolute smash. And I think, I think we ding him a little more than he probably deserves. There's a high probability that some of his target competition leaves. So I think it's wheels up on Kittle this season. If he falls to me, I will likely take him, but seems like he probably will not. But we'll see. I also could potentially take Sam Laporta. He was I believe a 2-3 turn player last year, or it was a 3-4 turn, but it was very early. He's going a lot later this season, and I think he's a great value where he goes, especially compared to Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. If you told me Laporta was the tight end 1, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know that anyone would be shocked, if that happened. But we're all drafting like Bowers is a, early second round pick, which I have a really hard time taking him there. So I will be faced with some questions here. Alvin Kamara is a guy that I find I get more than I really want. He's a guy that personally, if I could just not take him, I would. But I do think there's a chance that the Saints are quite a bit better than people are expecting. I mean, they were electric at the beginning of last year, and it really was just the injuries that derailed that season. That said, they built the plane out of Kamara previously. He is so in the passing game. I'm just going to take Kamara, and then I'm going to take Sam Laporta here. I potentially could have taken a more exciting rookie option to pair with CMC, but I am going to take the falling ADP value in Kamara and take someone I think could be the tight end 1 here. I find myself taking a ton of this range of tight end: Jonnu, Njoku, Warren. I don't know if I want to have so much of that. So there's a chance I still get one of those guys, because this range of player can be a little weird. There's a lot of running backs I am not particularly high on. There's a lot of quarterbacks who, if you don't have the stack, don't necessarily make a ton of sense. So keeping options open. I don't mind going double elite tight end, especially if the first tight end was not taken until the 6th round. So again, no exciting rookies. And the reason we draft these big boards is to take the fun rookies. And I have not done that yet, but we will see. Hopefully we get some good rookie value going forward, because it does make these drafts more fun. All right, 15 picks away. So we see nothing really out of the ordinary. Nobody's doing anything really too strange in this draft. No double elite quarterback. Nobody with a huge amount of position players. A few 3 RB teams: Jonathan Taylor, Chuba Hubbard, Travion Henderson, Bucky Irving, Breece Hall, Ken Walker, Henry, Kyron, Montgomery. So it does seem like 0 RB is a disfavored build, which is interesting. because people really love this rookie class, but yet people are still drafting heavy RBs. And that clearly is because of how this season ran out. The elite running backs, nobody got hurt. I think the highest ADP running back that had a catastrophic injury was really Pacheco. Well, CMC. So I take that back. But if you didn't have fall in the CMC landmine, you had CMC, Pacheco, and like Zach Moss. And other than that, the running backs stayed quite healthy. Whereas wide receivers were kind of in and out, a lot of the high-end guys. And people really took that on board and have been going heavy into running back this year. So this is interesting. Pearsall going at 74 ahead of Juwan Jennings. I have trouble with that. Yeah, Jennings goes immediately after. So we have Ayuk, Pearsall, Jennings, and Debo all go within 6 picks. So you have 4 Niner receivers and 6 picks. People really just don't know what to do with the Niner receivers because Ayuk coming off an injury, potentially wanting a trade. He wanted a trade previously. He's been in Shanahan's doghouse before. You have Debo who wants a trade, and then Jennings, who was fantastic last year, and Pearsall, who came on very late, overcame getting shot, which was terrible. Not that he overcame it. Getting shot was the terrible part. But glad that he is back, and it seems like his career's on track. But there's a lot of uncertainty in San Francisco. So I wouldn't have minded getting one of those receivers and getting Purdy, because then you can build that Purdy CMC receiver stack. But at this turn, at 84, it's pretty rare to get a 90 receiver, with the exception of Pearsall, sometimes falls that far. So I am coming up, and I would take Aaron Jones if he falls to me. He does not fall to me. Aaron Jones report came out today suggesting he is likely to return to Minnesota, which I think means his ADP is going to be coming up with a quickness. I will need to add a wide receiver here. And then do I want to be, let's see what, yeah, he takes Mahomes. I kind of thought he might take Mahomes. So I'm going to take Matthew Golden because he will not be there when I come around. And then the question is, do I want one of these quarterbacks? And I kind of think I want to go Golden Mayfield here. The quarterback can get really thin and become a little bit of a challenge. And I have Mike Evans. I'd have no problem taking Myers, but I think being that I'm at the turn, I don't have the luxury of waiting. And if there's a big QB run, I'm going to regret not taking my stack there. So perfectly happy to add Baker. And now I, have a full lineup that can, a full roster that can hit lineups with Baker at QB, CMC and Kamara at running back, Drake London, Marvin Harrison, Mike Evans, and Matthew Golden at receiver, and Sam Laporta at tight end. So potentially a little thin at wide receiver, although I do think these top 3 have the potential to be very elite. Drake London really flashed with Penix coming in. MHJ could take that second year, and Mike Evans just, they did what they had to do to get him to 1,000 yards. So I like the team so far, and no real complaints, but I'm going to have to focus on running back and receiver and try not to get tempted by things like QB. I imagine in this 132, 133 pick, I would probably love to take Michael Penix, which I think lines up with his lines up with his ADP. But again, people, at 132, people are very QB thirsty in the big board. So there is certainly no guarantee he will come back around, but we will see. We will see, but at the very least, we have one stacked quarterback, which is good because that does not always happen in the big board. People swerve wildly out of their lanes. People are not aware that there are such thing as lanes. That is more of a construct that we have built that may not be a real thing people believe in these drafts. So there goes Jonnu at 94, Rashid Shaheed at 95. Man, I really loved Shaheed last year. It was a shame he got hurt. He was looking to be having a pretty big breakout season. There goes Darnell Mooney at the other turn. So he, this drafter is a candidate to potentially take a very early Penix. People get cute and try to take Pitts and Penix later, but hopefully that does not happen because I think he would be a good addition to this team if that works out. Ramondre at 97, he's a guy I have almost none of. They were trying so hard to bench him this last year. He wasn't very good. He historically never fumbled, and he started fumbling, so it almost seems like his head really wasn't in the game. He truly might need a change of scenery, but I don't know if people would be clamoring for Ramondre. But I am a little bit bearish on him, and I don't think that's what this team personally needed, having already 3 very good running backs, but yet having no quarterbacks or tight ends. But clearly, they have some kind of plan in mind, but it is not the plan that I would have. Brock Purdy goes at 100, completely naked to a team that has Bo Nix. Pretty impressive stuff. You have 4 receivers and you have George Kittle, but yet Purdy is taken by a team that has none of them. So that is, again, the world of the big board where QBs are just, people are thirsty for their quarterbacks. So we are coming up soon. I would like a running back. I think my favorite would be Najee. And if Najee goes, it gets pretty gross. I really don't like Brian Robinson. I've been taking almost none of him because I think he is really just a guy, a highly replaceable player. I would probably like to take like Najee Mims, but I would not be shocked if those are the next 2 people off the board. I don't have very much DeAndre Swift. Taking a little of him. Might be willing to do it here, or might just pass on running back entirely at this point. We will see. I have to say I do not have any Travis Hunter because I do not want to draft a cornerback. Just kind of out on that. All right, so Swift goes. I am very surprised someone would take Swift over Najee. Couldn't be me, as the kids say. But I will add Marvin Mims and Najee Harris to this team and be fairly happy about doing so. I like both these guys. I think Najee has the potential to land somewhere and immediately be a 1,000-yard rusher. He is one of the most boring picks on the board. He is not going to have a breakaway 65-yard run for you, but he might get 20 carries for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. And if that happens in week 17, you could find yourself winning the big board. Coaches seem to love this kind of player who's just dependable, has a little bit of pass-catching chops, maybe more than he gets credit for in the streets. But, yeah. And Marvin Mims, the slappiest of slappy picks. People loved how much usage he was getting out of the backfield. They were finally finding ways to get him involved and get him the ball. Feels like a pretty good spike week guy on a young ascendant offense. So I do not mind taking Mr. Marvin Mims there. Warren at 112 is a bit of a fall. I don't have that much of him, but that's only because of how much I like Njoku. But I think this drafter got a good value there. This drafter, however, is very thin at wide receiver. I thought I was a little thin. Nico, Waddle, Khalil Shakir, Jacoby Myers just does not feel like enough receiving firepower to make it this year. But, you know, you never know. You never know. You could hit the nuts. You could have a big Shakir breakout. But that is feels like it's drawing a little thin in my humble opinion. Cam Scatabo goes next at 117. A very polarizing pick. A player I have been taking, but definitely a little nervous that he might not get the draft capital we hope he does. I think in some ways he's being punished for that game against Texas where we all saw how great he was, and everyone thinks, oh, well, he's only rising because of that one game we all saw and America fell in love with him. I think even without that, he was a pretty underrated player, and definitely been taking a little of him, but I see the potential path to failure. Tyler, thank you for coming and hanging out. Yes, I am pretty dusty here. I think I lost the bet, the age bet, but that's okay. I have been thinking, like, you know, hairline alone, I am absolutely cooked versus you. So anyone who saw that would just know. I mean, it's not gone, but it's you know, you look closely, you see you can see the cracks. So I'm happy for you. But yeah, that is, you know, I'm letting you behind the curtain here, Tyler. But yeah, T-Law goes. I am going to optimistically add Michael Penix to the queue. No, Tyler, it is not just because you joined the channel that I had to add Michael Penix to the queue. I, as you can see, have Drake London and have been plotting to add a little Penix to the team, but time to win the big part and go to Turkey to get new hair. I mean, my God, I've seen like those Instagram shorts of like a flight to Turkey, and it's just balding dudes. So I think that is more than me. Love some Penix in the room. Absolutely. I haven't been using the queue too much, but I had to make sure that was front and center when you stop by. But we will see what else we get. This is a pretty bad dead zone for running backs here. I think if I could, I would add somebody, but I would really have to reach. I will queue up Penix. If I don't get Penix, I would probably do something like stacking Leggett and Bryce Young. I would probably just build a stack out of thin air. I like Dak quite a bit. I wish I had someone here to pair him with, but I don't think it would make sense to take an unstacked Dak over a Penix, and I don't know that I necessarily want to take two QBs here. Travis Hunter, the cornerback one, goes. I've heard several good things. I've heard good things from several comics that have gotten the new cheap pair. All right. I will keep this in mind. But I'm probably not gonna win the big board, so this all might be a little putting the cart ahead of the horse. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm doing this for the love of the game. So, but I do appreciate you putting that out there for me. It means a lot. Thank you for doing that. So I am going to take Penix and annoy the room because I ran this to 0-0. And then, I have not taken much Colston Loveland, and I've been hearing some buzz. They were hyping him on the leg up guys were talking about him and how he might go ahead of Warren, or at least very close to Warren, who goes 30 picks earlier in the draft. So I will add some Loveland and think that, I have the stability of Laporta. Adding the rookie tight end makes a certain amount of sense for this team. So we have Baker and Penix at QB, CMC, Kamara, and Najee Harris at running back. A very, very dusty room of running backs, but one that I think still maintains a little bit of upside. Drake London, Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Evans, Matthew Golden, and Marvin Mims at wide receiver, and Laporta and Loveland at tight end. I had mentioned earlier, I'm not a big fan of drafting at the turn. I don't really love what you get coming out of the first round. Still me a worthwhile 20th round rookie RB. Well, I would really be kind of parroting what I hear from guys like Davis and Pat, but I do think I have been Rashad Smith pilled. He apparently is a pretty good pass catcher. Sounds like he can do a little of everything, and potentially is going to get a little more draft capital than people might be expecting. So I've been taking him. LeQuint Allen Jr., I forget why. It might just be because his name is very memorable, but I've been taking a lot of him. And then Sacrilegious was taking Raheem Sanders. So I was in a draft with him, and he took Sanders at the 20th round. So if Sacrilegious is doing something, I'm just going to do it because I assume he knows more than me. Then I heard a little more, and I found out his nickname was actually Rocket Sanders, which had me really in on him. I mentioned him in the Matic Discord, and Davis said Sanders looked, quote, like he was running with boots on, which felt somewhat bearish. So I have two competing things in my head, the nickname of Rocket and Davis saying he's running with boots. Sanders was injured, I believe, coming off of, I think he was injured his junior or senior year, so that did hurt his production. But, anyway, 20th round rookie. We're throwing darts. We are throwing darts there. I had been taking a lot of Tootin as well. And again, I don't know if it's because I wanted to make like Tootin my horn puns or what. I took a lot of him. I've slowed down on that to mix in the other guys. LeQuint did get Senior Bowl buzz. Study my influencer following. I mean, that's how I ended up with Dylan Laube. I just outsourced my opinions to people I thought were smarter than me, and they may still be smarter than me, but taking a lot of Dylan Laube was bad, and I will not do things like that again. I've also realized I need to just vary who I take with my late round picks, and I don't want 45% of anybody in the 20th round because I just don't know enough ball to get that right. Lance Zierlein has Tootin scored top 5 RB grades. All right, that's good. I have a fair amount of him already, so I might keep sprinkling him in. Then I was getting a little bearish, but that's enough to get me back in. So just about up here, I would have liked Samson man, I hate this range of running back again. I'm out on Blake Corum. Ray Davis is in like a three-headed situation. This is not my favorite list of players to choose from. Let's see who. So he takes Blake Corum. I am tempted to take Cade Otton to stack with Baker and round out my tight end room. This might be too much draft capital on tight ends, but I think I'm going to do that and then just take Cam Ward. I have my list of late round rookie running backs I'm comfortable with. I am drafting this like CMC and Kamara are going to be elite players again. So I just have to draft like I'm right and then take some swings later. Maybe would have liked to add a wide receiver there instead, but none of these names I feel like are ones where if I pass, I'm really going to be behind. So I can now be done at quarterback and done at tight end and then take some swings on the rookies here. The smart folks, overweight college targets, receptions versus pass blocking and pass explosion, IMO. Yeah, I think that's right. I think one thing I've learned here is how important pass blocking is to NFL teams. Like, you can be an absolute stud at running back, but if you can't pass block, they're not going to put you out on the field. And that's something I've tried to at least become a little more aware of, because it's, when you're watching highlights, you're not watching pass blocking highlights. At least I'm not. But certainly is something that the NFL teams are more focused on than us who are trying to swing for the fences with these guys. So I will probably be doing a 6 running back, 8 wide receiver build. So I gotta start adding a few of them. I might have gotten a little sidetracked with all those tight ends because there are some, seemingly good late tight end options. You got your Tyler Higbee, who goes super late, and then Arroyo got a lot of buzz at the Senior Bowl. I've heard Mason Taylor's name mentioned. He goes undrafted quite a bit. And then just some of these other dust ball names are probably going to be fine. Chig Okonkwo getting some good coach speak. So I think waiting on tight end is not necessarily the worst thing. There's also just poor offenses, O-lines, QBs that are more than happy to dump off to RBs for screen passes that don't make the RB a pass weapon necessarily. Yeah, it can be so apples to oranges comparing these college offenses. Like Bo Nix comes to mind. Like, if I remember from college, I thought he was going to do a lot of checkdowns, and he barely threw to running backs now that he's in the pros. And so, was that a function of the system, like the offense he was in being more check down heavy, or the offense he's in now, not wanting to do that? It's, your results may vary on that sort of thing. So I agree with you. I agree with you there. Yoshi Vasco's pick 169. He is a guy I have taken stone zero of. I will be stunned if he gets regular playing time next year. He was saved by Jermaine Burton's love of the casino. I don't blame him, right? We've all been there, but we generally have also not had a game plan designed for us, and then decided we would rather just no-show the walkthrough for that. But that is to say, I don't think Yoshi Vas is a very good pick. I think he is a major candidate to be replaced or phased out for the Bengals this year. But who knows? Guys make improvements, but he was, he was a bit of a compiler. He was just always on the field, and I don't know if he's necessarily going to be on the field as much this year. Isaac Guerendo at 171. goes to this fairly weak wide receiver room. I thought I was getting thin, but Bijan, Sharbs, Bigsby, and Garendo is really going to be a narrow needle to thread in the best ball playoffs, which, as we have learned, really mean everything in these. All right, we are coming up. By my ranks, I have guys like A.D. Mitchell. Higgins is my favorite player here. Jack Bech, I have taken him way too much, and I'm going to take him again as a treat. And I will pair him with, I think I'm going to take Giddens. I'm really not very excited about Roschon Johnson, Eckler, or Kendre. Especially if I have Kamara, I'm kind of betting that Kendre is not really a thing. I don't think any of these other receivers are such that I'm going to be too upset if I pass on them. Tempted by Thielen, but I think I wanted to start adding my running backs at this point. GM on Burton was brutal. Yoshi could be the new better Irwin. That is preferred 4 and 5 option, especially if Gesicki leaves as the slot. Feels fine. Yeah, I mean, he could, and he's certainly being drafted like he's going to be a part of the team. I'm kind of IKBing it, like just watching him. I'm like, this guy just doesn't seem that good. He seemed highly replaceable. But I guess there's worse picks one could make, but I just don't see the upside. And at this point in the draft, I'm typically, I feel like I've gotten the guys I think are going to be on the field, and now I want to like swing for the fences. Like I just can't imagine Yoshi Voss like with an 800-yard season. That just to me does not seem like in the range of outcomes. And I'm probably deluding myself thinking that Jack Bech is going to have an 800-yard season, but at least when they have the mystery Gotham City uniforms that they're wearing, I can tell myself like, no, this guy, this is Puka Nacua mixed with Jerry Rice, and you just won your pod. Eckler goes 191. So these running backs in this range, people taking the veteran options versus the wheel of rookies. Tolbert over Yoshi for usable spike week player, but third's cheaper as vet running all the routes. I agree there. I like Tolbert. I take him. I mix him in. I find myself taking him when I have Dak, probably more than I should, because sometimes in these drafts I've been getting unstacked Dak because building these stacks has been a little weird in the big board, just the way the ADPs go and the way people are so QB thirsty, that I tell myself Tolbert's a good piece to mix in. And yeah, as we see Dart going at 190s early, and the last person we're really confident in starting is Derek Carr, and we're not even at pick 200. And the QBs are all gone. So these have been very QB thirsty, these drafts. Let's see if this can help me. Nope, Booty just goes to a guy who likes him, not to the Drake May drafter. All right, I will be taking a running back here and a receiver. Let's see. Receiver by ADP. Man, Michael Wilson. I have taken no Michael Wilson so far, and I really struggle taking D-Hop. I'll queue up Tolbert. I think, as we mentioned him, if I get him, that would be a perfectly fine 7th wide receiver for me. And who else? We have Baker, Penix, and Ward. So nobody too obvious to stack with any of those guys. Could potentially take Tez Johnson. He's apparently a true short king. Really small, but we've seen people in the mold of Tank Dell getting out there. I don't mind him as my stone last receiver. At running back, all right, I'm going to take Tolbert here, and then I will be true to my word and take Brashard Smith. So still need to add one running back and one wide receiver here. I'm not particularly sold that this Tez Johnson Tank Dell comp is really going to work out. I don't mind having a few shares of him, but he is very small, and it takes a brave team and GM to invest draft capital in a 165-pound wide receiver. So we'll see. I took a lot of bad late rookie receivers last season, so I don't know if Tez Johnson, he feels a lot like Tez Walker, and maybe it's just because their name is Tez, but I took a lot of Tez that just did not pan out, and I'm a little jilted from that, I think. But, of course, what I am trying to do at the end of these drafts is not take the same people every time. I tend to take a lot of Elijah Moore. He is a free agent, but I think he's going to see the field wherever he goes. So I don't mind taking shares of him. Yeah, I agree with this. He is probably ceiling his Tutu Atwell. And Tank is like a unique talent and player, and we just cannot say, oh, tiny wide receiver, it's Tank Dell. It's like, it's probably not going to work out that way. I agree with that. I agree with that enough to boot Tez Johnson from the queue. Get out of here, Tez. Well, you're getting picked last for dodgeball. So yeah, this range of dust ball receivers goes, or running back goes Gibson, Chubb, Kendre Miller. I'm calling Kendre Miller a dust ball because I am over the Kendre Miller experience. A true fool me once kind of thing going on there. But certainly possible that the Saints like him enough to keep him around. We know Dennis Allen sure as heck didn't, but he was gone. That said, late in the year, he still really couldn't take over a backfield that had absolutely nobody. I mean, even Taysom Hill was gone, and Taysom Hill was running ahead of Miller. It's a tough scene for Kendre Miller. Elijah Arroyo goes at 217. So question for me is, once I have Laporta and Loveland, was it right to take Kadon over one of these late tight ends that could potentially be quite good? Arroyo, Gunnar Helm, even Oronde Gadsden II. Being a true old, I remember Oronde Gadsden as the Dolphins wide receiver. I'm a Dolphins fan, so it's always makes you feel really dusty when you remember the guy's dad playing for your team, and now you're drafting him in the big board. But yes, Oronde Gadsden II, could be decent. Juwan Johnson, was a massive spike week guy in week 17 2 years ago. I don't see why his role is too different, in a potentially improved Saints offense at least from last year. Estime, another guy I have problems taking. I mean, they literally game day inactivated him for the playoffs. I don't understand why we're taking Estime. Personally, I know Javonte Williams is leaving. Is that state? Tyler, thank you. I actually did not know that. I thought he had 1 year left. So it's not to say he's undraftable. I mean, I think he's a good enough player to where he can land on his feet somewhere, but I did not know he was a free agent. So thank you. All right, Marks goes. Woody Marks, a player that by all accounts is only drafted where he's drafted because of inertia, but 223 is pretty late for him. I will queue up LeQuint. Oh, I'm already on the clock here. Oh, Tez Johnson. Boy, do we take Tez after all that? Tez is the highest ranked player here, and LeQuint Allen. I could also take Tootin. Oof. Well, we will round out this draft with Tez Johnson and LeQuint. This is a fair point, right? Like Peyton was like, we need to figure out a way to get Mims on the field. It's like, dude, you're actually the coach. Like you can do this. You can make this happen. And it took, yeah, you're right. It took a full year. But yeah, things can change. But to me, it is really bearish when they, gosh, who was the guy that they? I can't even remember. Was it Boone? Not Boone. Who they started over him, or not started, but activated over him in the playoffs. But unfortunately, I do not have time to do a second draft. But this team ended up with Baker, Penix, Cam Ward, running back CMC, Kamara, Najee Harris, and then 3 rookies, DJ Giddens, Brashard Smith, and LeQuint Allen Jr. Beatty, that's right. That is right. Wide receiver room of Drake London, Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Evans, Matthew Golden, Marvin Mims, Jack Betch, Jalen Tolbert, and Tez Johnson, in a tight end room of Laporta, Loveland, and Hahn. So, yeah, who I believe scored or just crushed all of our DFS streams, if I remember right. But Tyler, I really appreciate you hanging out and tweeting the stream. Thank you again. Thanks for everybody who has stopped by, and I'm going to try to stream again tomorrow. But again, have a good one, and I hope to draft with you all sometime. Take care.